This is my second video on capitalization. In this video, I will share examples of how to write dates and addresses, whether they are in letters, other documents, or sentences. It is important to remember that you need to use both proper capitalization and proper punctuation when using dates and addresses. Therefore, even though this is a capitalization video, I will be talking about punctuation as well, specifically commas. So you'll see other kinds of punctuation, but really the focus of this video is on capitalization and commas at the same time. So here's the order of events for this video. The first thing is that we will look at a letter to see an example of a document with capitalization and punctuation in it. The second thing is I will share examples of sentences that mention dates and addresses. So here's an example of a letter. And just very briefly, you can see that the letter starts off with a date. And then we have the address where the letter is going to. That's called an inside address. And then you have a greeting or salutation. That's these words, "Dear Ms. Davis." And then you have the body of your letter. And the body of your letter gives all of the information that you need to provide. Now, this particular letter is called a personal business letter. So it's a business letter, which means that it needs to have a little bit more formal tone. So the words that you choose have to be a little bit more formal. It has to be professional. So this is a good example of where you would not use any contractions, for example. So the reason why this is called a personal business letter is because you're imagining that it's yourself writing to a business. So that word personal is in there just because it's your letter that you're writing. And at the end of the letter, you have something called a complimentary closing. And a really common way of ending a business letter is with the word sincerely. And then, of course, what you want to do is you want to type your name and sign your name. That's the best thing to do, so that people, just in case they can't read your signature, they still know who you are. And then at the end, you put your mailing address in. Now, of course, this isn't my real mailing address, nor did I didn't provide my phone number either. And in this video, I didn't put an email in just because it is a public video, and any of my students already know how to contact me by email. Alright, so let's look at this now with a focus on capitalization and punctuation at the same time. Looking at this date here. When you have a date, you need to capitalize the month, and here the month is May, and you put a comma after the number. So we have May 16th, comma, 2016. Now, let's say we had a day of the week in there. I'm not sure what day of the week May 16th was, but let's say it was Monday. So you could also say Monday, comma, May 16th, comma, 2016. Then we have the inside address, the address for the person that the letter's going to, which includes, of course, the person's name and where they work, or what their position is and where they work, and the mailing address. So when you have an address, you need to capitalize the city and the province, right? So we have Sioux Lookout, Ontario, right? And you need to put a comma after the street number. We have street number, so it'd be like a building number 19, right? On 15th Avenue is the name of the street. So you put a comma in between. You put a comma after the street number, and then you also put a comma in between the city and the province. Notice we have Sioux Lookout, comma, Ontario. And then you only have spaces after the province and in between the first and second part of the postal code. So you look here, right, you've got Ontario, and then you have a space, then you have this postal code P-O-T space 1-M-O. All right. And just a little note here with a business letter. After that greeting or salutation, you'd put a colon. And in a future video, I will be talking about the difference between colons and semicolons. So you can check that out. That video is not quite ready at the time of making this video. So looking at the middle now, just some general things. You want to make sure that you're capitalizing new technology correctly. So in the letter I talked about an iPad, a PC, and a USB. If you're not sure what to do with the names of new technology, just Google it. That's a perfect way to use Google, in my opinion. And then some general rules. So if we look at this middle paragraph, for example, I say, please recommend a few products that I could use. I am looking for something similar to a USB drive. Please include product descriptions and costs. So those are all the details, the specific details that the person reading my letter would need to know. So in general, you want to capitalize the first word in each sentence, and you always want to capitalize the word I, if you're using I, of course. So you notice I have a capital P at the beginning, please, at that first sentence. Every time I use I, it's capitalized as well. And then again, I am looking for, right, so that's capitalized, and then I used please again, right? And then even here at the bottom, right, thank you, that's capitalized, please is capitalized, and then I is capitalized again. And when you get to your closing, you want to capitalize it and put a comma after it. So sincerely with a capital S and a comma. Sincerely, comma. And proper names like nouns are capitalized, so I need to capitalize the first letter in each part of my name, my first and last name. And this address is the same, the rules are the same. You would capitalize the city and the province. This time I have a different city and a different province. Now notice here with the province of Ontario, I've used a short form, and you could do that. And then of course you put a comma after the street number. And actually in this one you don't put a comma. Most of the time you wouldn't put a comma after the street number. In the one up top here, the reason why you put a comma is because you actually have two numbers back to back. So you would need to pause after it so that you wouldn't have a confusion between the numbers. So you'd say 19, 15th Avenue, right? But here, because you have a number and then the name of a street, you don't need a comma after the 789. That's why. All right, and then with the province and the postal code, notice I just have spaces in between there. So that's the letter. Next, let's discuss some sentences as examples. Sentence number 1. My address is 123 Wilburn Lane, Erlington, Ontario, P8G7A5, but I will be moving soon. Alright, I don't know if there's a place called Erlington, Ontario or not. Probably not. Or if there's a street named Wilburn Lane. I made this up. Alright, so I've got a comma after Wilburn Lane. I've got a comma after Erlington, after the city. And because my sentence continues after I give the address, I put a comma. And also you should notice that this word but is a coordinating conjunction. So you always put a comma before a coordinating conjunction. So again, in this example, we have a full address, plus there are words after the address. So there are commas after the full street address, 123 Wilburn Lane. There's a comma after the city, Erlington. And in this case, there's a comma after the postal code, but that's because we are keeping the sentence going after we give the address. And also because the word but is a coordinating conjunction, and you always put a comma before a coordinating conjunction. And if we look at our capitalization, we've capitalized the first word in the sentence, my. We've capitalized the street name, Wilburn Lane. We've capitalized the city, Burlington. We've capitalized the province, Ontario. And we've capitalized the letters in the postal code. Sentence 2. Have you ever been to Thunder Bay, Ontario? So in this example, we just have a city and a province, and both are capitalized. And that first word in the sentence is capitalized too. I didn't write that down, but you should notice that. And remember that you always put a comma in between a city and a province. So this is a less complicated example than the first one. I wanted to give you the first one just in case you ever needed to write a sentence like that. Third example. He is an American who is living in Canada. So you notice there aren't any commas in this example. We don't need any commas just because of the types of words that we're using. We don't need commas here. But we can talk about capitalization. You capitalize the first letter in the first word of the sentence. You capitalize the ethnicity, American. That's a group of people, Americans, right? So he is an American who is living in Canada. So his ethnicity is American. And then you capitalize the country, Canada. Okay, sentence number 4. Charlottetown, PEI, is a beautiful place. I actually wrote this example because of PEI. So in this example, we have a city and a province. The city is Charlottetown. The province is PEI. And if you're wondering, this acronym, P period, E period, I period, this acronym PEI stands for Prince Edward Island. Notice how there are periods after each letter of the acronym. So with an acronym, each capital letter stands for something, right? Prince Edward Island. And then you capitalize the city, which is also the first word, and you capitalize the province, or in this case, you would capitalize each letter in the acronym that we have, PEI. Okay, let's see an example where we have the full name Prince Edward Island in it. Prince Edward Island is a very small province, but I think that the people are friendly. So that's really all I wanted to show you, was what it would look like if we wrote out the whole name. But, so we don't need periods if we have the whole name. And just remember to always put a comma before a coordinating conjunction. Right, so we've got that word but, right? So in this sentence, the word but is a coordinating conjunction. Prince Edward Island is a very small province, comma, but I think that the people are friendly. And then, of course, we're not just capitalizing Prince Edward Island. You have to remember, the sentence happens to start with this proper noun, Prince Edward Island, but you would always, no matter what, capitalize the first letter of the first word. And again, we need to capitalize the full name of the province. Sentence number 6. They live in the north, so the Atlantic Ocean is to the southeast of them. In this example, we only have one comma, and that comma is before this word so. The word so is also a coordinating conjunction. Remember, always put a comma before a coordinating conjunction. Then in terms of capitals, you capitalize the first letter of the first word, that's they. And then we have a geographical region here that we call the north. And the way that we do it is we just capitalize north, right? But we call the region the north. That's what we call the region. And just the way that we capitalize it, we just capitalize the word north. Now, if I said to you, go north to get to that city, and I just told you a direction, then we would not capitalize the word north, because that's a direction on a compass that we need to go in. But we're talking about, remember when we say that they live in the north, we're talking about a geographical region. So that's why we need that capital N on north. Let me read the sentence again. They live in the north, comma, so the Atlantic Ocean is to the southeast of them. So you notice I've capitalized Atlantic Ocean, right? It's the ocean name. But because it's a direction, right? It's a direction in relation, right? Where is the Atlantic Ocean in relationship to them, right? So it's to the southeast of them, and southeast is just a direction. So it is not capitalized. Sentence 7. Jennifer's birthday is this Monday, March 6th, 2017. So you notice we have a full date that includes the day, month and number, and the year. So when we look at the commas, we put the day, then a comma, then the month and number, and then a comma, and then we finish with the year. And then for capitalization, we capitalize the name, obviously, and it also happens to be the first letter of the first word. Then we capitalize the day of the week and the month. Now you might be wondering, Monday, March 6th, with that TH there, do you have to put the TH in? No. You could write Monday, March 6th, comma, 2017 if you wanted to. I like writing 6th in. That's just my personal preference. I think it looks nicer and sounds nicer when you say it out loud. Sentence 8. The assignment is due on Friday, January 27th, so there isn't much time left. In this sentence, there is just part of a date, but then the sentence continues after that, right? So instead of just saying the assignment is due on Friday, January 27th, I've added words on after. So I say the assignment is due on Friday, January 27th, so there isn't much time left. That's why we don't just end in a period, because the sentence continues, and that word so is a coordinating conjunction, and we always put a comma before a coordinating conjunction. But if we're just looking at where do we put the commas, the comma in relationship to the day and the month, well, you'd always put a comma in between the day and the month. And then when we look at capitalization, we capitalize the first letter of the first word, so capital T on the. We capitalize the day, Friday, and we capitalize the month, January. This is the last example. Gary is having a party on Tuesday. So in this example, there are no commas, but there are some capital letters. A capital G on Gary, a capital T on Tuesday. You notice, and I did this on purpose, both words are examples of proper nouns. In the last video on capitalization, I will share examples of sentences with proper nouns. That video is not ready yet. It'll be the second last video in this video series. But just keep in mind that proper nouns is one more area of capitalization that I would like to discuss, because there are so many different proper nouns out there. Well, I hope this video was helpful, and I look forward to the next one.